New video has surfaced showing a Sweet Baby Inc. employee revealing how the company repeatedly pressured a client to inject the woke agenda. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. This clip of Sweet Baby Inc. employee Cameron Wild, an individual who claims to be non-binary, revealed how he and his company wore down a client in order to inject his woke representation into a game. The clip of Wild discussing his tactics to get creative changes was discovered and subsequently shared by YouTube channel Gothic Therapy. In the clip, Wild says this: "It was a situation where the identity of the characters was fairly important that we get it right. And in this situation, actually, we had to have a more heart-to-heart, really foundational conversation about these are some of the experiences that you are necessarily going to invoke, or some of the messages that you're going to invoke, some of the implications that you're going to invoke, regardless of whether you want to or not. It's not a question of like, are you doing it well? Are you doing it badly? It's just there. And so here are the options for how that could go." So clearly talking about injecting woke ideology onto a character. This was a pretty unique situation where they were willing to take days out of their time to talk with us about it. I think in that situation, it was, as a marginalized person, I felt making myself very vulnerable and being brutally honest of just like, hey, I think what you're doing is not cool. And then being met with a less than optimal response to that. And then having to say it again and then again and again. So you can see he obviously objected to how they were clearly characterizing some kind of character. Didn't like it, was having a discussion with them about it. The client clearly didn't like the advice that they were receiving from Wild and Sweet Baby Inc. And nevertheless, Wild persisted and continued to pressure the client over and over and over and over again. Interestingly enough, he's the one who's painting himself as the victim by describing himself as a marginalized person. Despite actually being hired by the company to do work, he's somehow marginalized when he's getting paid to provide advice to this company. Anyways, he went on and said, "What I have taken out of that in hindsight is know where your personal and professional limit is, choose your battles, decide as much as you can which hills you're willing to die on and which maybe you would rather not. I think that really will serve you well, and get very specific about your priorities. Be willing to let certain things go, but that comes with experience. That's not something that I knew in the moment. I think in hindsight, I will say I wish I had been a little less vulnerable, and so that is a very valuable piece of information that I now have about myself." So that is what Wild had to say. If you're unfamiliar with this individual, he infamously talked about wanting to burn down the video game industry. I didn't include it here, but he did that in a presentation at like the Developers of Color conference or something like that. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But that's why he said he was in the video game industry, was to burn it all down. But none of this is really surprising, right? This is basically just kind of telling us what Sweet Baby Inc. CEO Kim Belair infamously advised back in 2019 during the Game Developers Conference, where she said that developers and employees at AAA studios should terrorize their employers in order to hire woke consultants that push the woke agenda. This is what she said. If you're creative working in AAA, which I did for many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for, when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. Remember, this is 2019. Cancel culture was at its peak. People were losing their jobs. People were offing themselves because of cancel culture. It was really, really bad stuff. And Kim Belair here is literally advising woke developers to pressure their employers to embrace woke ideology in order to cancel them. She's literally trying to weaponize cancel culture against a lot of these companies. And she explained, because they have to consider, I say that out loud as a joke, but it's actually very, very true, because if you start to consider the people who are player and audience facing, and you have to deal with mitigating harm and with keeping the sentiment around their game and their project positive, there's like a genuine value that you can impress upon them, both ethically and financially. You could say this is important. She's literally talking about creating cancel mobs to go after these companies. Like, that is what she is talking about. It's very clear there. She elaborates saying it's also a valid discussion to have because if you're working with a thin narrative budget and you work in AAA, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised or dismayed by the amount of money that marketing can give you. And then obviously, she obviously wants to enrich herself as well. So there's an ulterior motive for her to encourage these developers to be engaging in cancel culture tactics, right? So she can get money and enrich herself from it because her entire business model is based on woke representation and ideology, and you should pay me to help make sure your game is as woke as possible to not upset your big dollar investors, as well as the woke cancel mobs that we might sick on you. Evil stuff, absolutely evil stuff here. In that same presentation, she also revealed how she attempted to pressure a developer into changing a Frenchman's race. This is what she said. I once worked on a project where they had an all-white cast where they expressed their desire, okay, we need to mix it up a bit. How about this character's like stereotypically French? So they have a beret and they have like a striped shirt. And I was like, okay, if you need to do that, can we at least make them a person of color? And they said, oh no, that would be weird. They're already French. So I want to do better than this. So we know that this is what they've been doing, and this is what they do for forever. I mean, even in that same 2019 video here, that presentation at the GDC, she literally talks about how she's not trying to do a veneer of wokeness. She is all about pushing woke ideology into video games. Kim Belair was very clear as to what Sweet Baby Inc. does. And so this clip here that Gothic Therapy discovered, I think just reinforces what we already knew about Sweet Baby Inc., that they do indeed pressure these developers to push woke ideology into their games. And they're willing to push more until they get it in. And we have to say no to this. These developers have to say no to this. We have to put the pressure on the developers to say no. And unfortunately, I think there are some that, unfortunately, a lot, the major ones like Microsoft, we see this with the most recent Oblivion release, we're not getting to them. And we have to continue the fight. They're still putting in these ridiculous body type 1, body type 2 changes, which is clearly meant to normalize gender ideology. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, you're just crying, blah, 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 which is ironic because they're crying about me talking about how evil it is. And we should be upset about how evil it is. That should outrage us. More people should be upset about that they are literally trying to erase male and female, and they're doing it through these video games. This is an agenda that they have been pushing for some time now. I mean, you can see it here in this presentation that Kim Belair gives in 2019. You see it here in this comments from Cameron Wild. These people are not messing around. So we have to not mess around either. Fortunately, there is some changes. We see this with Marek Tyminski. He did remove the body type 1, body type 2 nonsense from his game, Lords of the Fallen, has seen good profits from that. So we can obviously say that, hey, look, you make these changes, it actually does increase sales. It is a good thing. But that shouldn't be the main motivating factor. These people should be doing it because it is right. Trying to erase male and female is wrong. The body type 1, body type 2 nonsense, it's evil and it's wrong, and they should make the change because of that. But we can also, as I said, talk about that profit motive too, because I think there is evidence now that shows that gamers are willing to do that. But at the same time, we know that these companies are willing. They're willing to eat lost sales to push the woke ideology. One need look no further than the comments that Mark Alexis Cote made, the VP of Assassin's Creed, where he says that he's trying to change society, change culture in a more woke fashion, and he's doing it through the Assassin's Creed franchise. He says that these are not just video games. They're not just entertainment for him. They are pieces of propaganda to indoctrinate people into his agenda. And he says he's not going to back down from that. So we have to not back down either. And we have to stand up to these companies like Ubisoft, like Microsoft, like a lot of these big AAA developers that have institutionalized this woke ideology. Microsoft has entire frameworks for injecting woke ideology into video games, and they are clearly enacting it throughout all of their subsidiaries, whether it is Halo, whether it is the Elder Scrolls and Bethesda, etc. They're doing that, and we see this through all these other companies too. So we have to stand up against this nonsense because, again, it's not just Sweet Baby Inc. here, right? They are a symptom of a larger battle that we have to fight against this woke ideology that has taken our society by storm and quickly did so. But we can take it back. We can take it back, and we will. Let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always speak the truth.